Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to walk you through my step-by-step process on what I do when I am recording on podcast day. Now, it's been a while since I last talked about podcasts, and since then, this video has really taken off. So I can see that there's so much interest in people really wanting to share their voice with the world. Now, when you actually mentally prepare yourself and you are ready to hit publish on your first podcast episode, there are a few things that I personally do on podcast recording day that really help me with the process and help me get mentally prepared. I need to make sure I'm focused when I'm recording, so I like to do some light stretches beforehand to just move a bit of the energy around in my body and calm my nerves. All right, so before the podcast guest actually comes on, I do a little bit of a check for myself. So I'm always using headphones, but if you're not, of course, you would toggle there. And once you do that, you join Studio and you'll be able to see on the right-hand side a few different functions that will be useful to you. So for example, I always make sure that noise reduction is defaulted to on. This is going to ensure that if you have the AC running or if there's noise in the background of some kind, this will cancel that so well. The next function that I always like to check for is echo cancellation. So as I mentioned, I always use headphones, but sometimes if you don't have headphones, you've forgotten them, or even if your guest doesn't have headphones on, you'll want to ensure that this is toggled to the on button. If you are someone who is recording on your own, you may want to also go ahead and just run a test recording. You can, of course, also do this when you have the podcast guest on, if you do have a guest for that episode. So once you actually select run test recording, you will see that there's a little countdown and you should get a notification up at the top that says get ready to say something, and it will give you a test like this. So now it will actually upload that recording so that you can play it back and you can listen to the sound and you can see the video quality just to ensure that everything is recording smoothly the way that you would like it to. The next tip has to do with hydration. Of course, I'll always have a glass of water or some tea next to me, or maybe both, as I record, just in case my throat gets dry. It also helps keep my throat clear, and because you're using a mic and it picks every little sound up, you want to make sure that you have something to sip on, because if you have a little dryness in your mouth, the mic is very sensitive, so just be mindful of that. Once I'm back at my space and I'm ready for post-production, I of course have to use Riverside, which is my platform of choice. I rely on Riverside for all of my podcast needs. I talked about it a lot in the How to Start a Podcast video, and I also just honestly advocate for it in my everyday life because I just think it's so easy to use. While I do primarily use Riverside for my podcasting needs, but you can actually use it for so much more. You can use it for live events, for live streaming, for business meetings, one-on-one you might have at work. The options are endless. Let's say you just recorded your podcast. While yes, that is the most important part, what is also equally important is to ensure that you have show notes, you have your intro recorded, and you also have social clips earmarked for what you would like to promote on social media. So I like to do all three of those steps right after the podcast is recorded because the information is fresh in my mind and it's just easier to get it done then at that very moment so I can just tuck it away and move on to the next project. What I have here on the screen is a podcast recording that I did with Jason Nellis, who also actually happens to be a podcaster, and I will leave a link to his show in the description box. But you can see here, if you are just a solo person and wants to create social clips really easily, you just have to simply select generate clips on your Magic Clips, and Riverside will actually find the highlights and the key moments in the episode that you just recorded and start generating clips. Look at that. There are so many clips to choose from, and obviously you don't have to select every single one to highlight, but it's so great to just be able to have something to start with. So I'm just going to randomly select this one. You can see here that the script that has been highlighted for this social clip is already highlighted. So let's say, for example, though, you want to just clean things up a little bit. If I wanted to be really mindful of every single filler word that I said live, I could just go through this script and all you have to do is highlight the exact word that you want to remove. For example, I use the word like, which is a filler word that I definitely try to be mindful of, but looks like I wasn't 100%. All you have to do is really highlight that and select delete, and it's now out of the script, it's out of the captions, and it's just so easy. Let's say I also wanted to be able to customize how the captions looked on screen. All you have to do is hover over all of these different options that are already curated for you. If you wanted to customize your captions even further, you can select brand, you can add in a logo of yours, and you can just position it wherever you would like. So if I want to do something that is always earmarked to the right upper hand corner, you can do that just for some additional branding for your podcast. Or if you have certain colors that you would like to brand yourself with, there is a color wheel here that you can go ahead and just select. You can also input the hex code number, and it is already looking so much more customized. And when it comes to layouts, I personally like this grid view, but there's so many other options. If you wanted to do full screen on just your guest or yourself, you could do that. If you wanted picture in picture, so easy to do that. Or even a split screen where it is primarily your guest and then you are sort of in the lower third. There are just so many options to really be able to make this your own. I hope that some of these podcast recording tips have helped you in your podcast recording day. If you happen to have a podcast, let me know in the comments below on what you do for your podcast recording day. And if you are at all interested in Riverside, I do have a link in the description box below that will give you 15% off if you use the code You Are Here on an upgraded paid plan.